The PLL has just released, in my opinion, the biggest news in PLL and possibly professional lacrosse history. Listen up, folks. If you're a lacrosse fan, this is massive. So first of all, we have a lot of numbers around how much pro lacrosse players make now, which is something that was always confusing and we never really knew an answer. So Inside Lacrosse reported that the minimum salary for a PLL player is $25,000. That's the bare bones, that's the minimum. That's not bad considering the average MLL salary was around $8,000. 25 grand on top of a solid job is awesome. And that's a significant boost from what we've seen before. But that's just minimum. It was also announced that each team has $735,000 to allocate between their roster, with no one allowed to make less than $25,000. That means that coaches will have an extra $100,000 to work with and allocate to everyone on the team. So that means if you're a top 5 player in the world, you might be getting paid 50 grand just on PLL salary alone. That's massive. 50 grand is a livable wage on its own, and if you make that much, you're probably having sponsors, camps, and clinics, so it's not unrealistic at all to say that you could be pulling well above 6 figures off of just lacrosse alone. That's massive. That's unprecedented. We've never seen that happen in professional lacrosse before at this scale. Before there was maybe 1 or 2 players who could do that. Now there's at least a few dozen who could probably do that. In addition, if you're the number 1 pick in the PLL draft, you get 30 grand. And once again, hopefully in 10 years, it's 300 grand. But for now, that is absolutely massive in terms of salary in pro lacrosse. And travel stipends are now double. And that was the thing that many pro players complained about, that they still had to pay for Ubers and food while they were traveling. Well, now they don't have to. And that's just another step toward feeling more like a professional athlete. The next huge piece of news is that there will now be free agency. Before, it was pretty unclear who could get traded. It was kind of hit or miss. Well, now it's like free agency just like NBA or NFL. Players can move around if their contract expires and they can negotiate new deals. And by the way, you can join 3,000 other lacrosse players and join the Lax Weekly email newsletter packed with tangible tips on how to become a better lacrosse player. I'll leave a link in the description where you can go subscribe now. And fellas, in the NBA, free agency has become just as popular, if not more popular than the basketball itself. Free agency comes with so many storylines, so much drama and anticipation. This is absolutely huge for the sport. Imagine when Lyle Thompson, Matt Rambo, Zed Williams, and Grant Amon all become free agents. They can negotiate their salary. It's gonna be ridiculous. And because coaches can allocate money to certain players, that means we'll get to see which positions coaches value most. Are they gonna want a lockdown goalie, a QB attackman, or a do-it-all midi? This will be a new level of analysis for players and fans that we've never gotten before. This also means that coaches are going to be GMs. I think this is both a good and bad thing. Some coaches are big numbers guys. We saw coaches like Andy Copeland from the Water Dogs find huge success during free agency. But some coaches are probably more X's and O's guys, and they don't really care about the numbers. So I'd bet in the next few years, we might see a shift to having both coaches and GMs. And that's where it's going to get really interesting. There's going to be a future where some people's career will be a GM of a professional lacrosse team. Sign me up, for gosh sakes. And we also have to note the ESPN deal from the PLL. The PLL is switching from NBC to ESPN as their media provider. A chance for games to be on ESPN is absolutely massive, and with all of these storylines happening at once, we're in for the biggest PLL offseason and season yet. There's never been a better time to be a player or a fan of lacrosse, and I can say that with confidence. These changes will almost certainly have a trickle-down effect. Kids will now look at lacrosse as a more viable career option. College lacrosse will become even more competitive. And the competition in the PLL, well, don't even get me started. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of all this and what video you want to see next. I'm Jake with Lacrosse Weekly. I hope you have a fantastic day.